Hey guys, and welcome to the wrap up. If you haven't been here before, this is the official Raptors Republic live post game show where we recap, we dissect, and we have some fun talking about the latest Raptors game. Another win, guys. This is great, Oren, because we were going through a streak a couple months ago where it was loss after loss after loss after loss. Tonight, Oren, the Raptors defeated the OKC Thunder 112 to 106. That brings the Raptors record to 23 wins and 34 losses. Still not where they want to be, but considering the tanking we're hearing, winning games is pretty cool. I can't even lie to you, especially with how bad the Chicago Bulls are doing. I'm okay with it. I didn't even introduce us. I'm your co-host Sahal Abdi. Again here with Oren Weisfeld. Oren's back, which is nice to see. You missed the Friday night's game. He was
it a great one?
It was
a Paul Watson game. Yeah,
huge Paul Watson game. 30 points. Yeah. Me and Zarar had fun talking about that one. But in this game, Oren started off really damn cool because the two Canadians on the floor were just going shot for shot at one point, Chris Boucher and Lou Dort, who for me were both the players of the game on each side. But one guy that a lot of people weren't necessarily talking about, at least that I saw on Twitter, was Malachi Flynn, how poised he looked in this game, how good he looked. Damn, man. Watching Malachi for me, Oren, it's almost like watching a point guard in his 6th or 7th year in the league. He's so poised. Runs the floor so well with the ball in his hands. This was one of those weird games, Oren, where the entire starters, the starting five for Toronto were all pluses, while the bench were all minuses. So essentially when the bench was coming in, they were kind of giving up leads. Starters were coming in, preserving the lead if they had a lead, or just preserving the scoreline. We'll get into Chris Boucher, but let's get into Malachi first. What did you think about his game?
Yeah, I wanted to start with Malachi because honestly, I don't think the Raptors had any business winning this game. Their execution was poor, their defense was poor, their ball movement was poor for most of the game. I give a lot of credit to Boucher, and we're going to get into him for the shot making. And same goes with Gary Trent Jr. in the second half. Those guys started hitting shots, and that certainly helped. But Flynn was the only reason to me that the Raptors were in this game and that they pulled it out at the end. Like, he impressed me. This was the most impressive game for me of his Raptors career. And that might sound crazy because he only had 15 points. 5 assists, 7 rebounds, nothing crazy, of course. But he really, people say like, wow, Malachi is a fourth quarter player. Like, really, he's a point guard. And he's a point guard in the sense that he gets his teammates involved over himself. And he waited until the fourth quarter to get himself going. And not many people, especially rookies, can do that. Like, Gary Trent will take as an example of a guy who shot himself into this game. He didn't shoot the ball very well. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't shoot the ball well.
He was awful to start.
Exactly. But he was given the freedom today, obviously, with all the injuries, to shoot 25 shots. Crazy. And he eventually got it going and helped them win with 5 made threes, most of them in the second half. But Malachi didn't shoot himself into this game. He was really getting his teammates involved. Defensively made crucial plays down the stretch. And then, he started making 2 of his threes in the fourth quarter, and I'll play a clip here. But yeah, he I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words. I'm really impressed with what he did tonight.
Yeah,
he looked like a vet.
For me, Oren, when I watch Malachi, I've said it so many times, his level of poise compared to guys that he's playing with on the court who have been in the league 4 years, 5 years. 3, 4, 5 years. He just looks like the guy that's been there the longest. He controls pace really well. I know I mentioned this a couple shows ago where I read that incredible Nikias Duncan piece on Chris Paul about controlling the pace of games. And man, Malachi Flynn, for a rookie point guard, that guy, he looks like he's never in over his head ever. At any point in the game, he's very well rounded. The defensive effort tonight was so good. And I think, Oren, for me, one of the biggest things that I've noticed with Malachi is we can talk about his confidence all day long, growing game to game. But for me, one of the biggest things is him really developing a clutch gene.
Mm.
In the fourth quarter, he becomes a totally different player, and people are starting to realize this. At one point, my entire Twitter timeline was just Malachi in the fourth is just totally different. Um, what do you think about him developing that clutch gene? Do you think that's a real thing, or I'm going to show you guys some tweets later on, but I think in the fourth quarter, especially when you're playing with guys like Yuta Watanabe and guys who necessarily haven't gotten tons of NBA run in their careers, Paul Watson. You could even say Chris Boucher. To be honest, this is really his first year having a big role on this team. What do you think about Malachi Flynn really turning up in the fourth quarter, making a consistent high level plays? I want to say in the fourth quarter. What do you think about that?
I mean, it impresses me because, like I was saying before, he didn't really shoot that much earlier in this game, and like a lot of rookies, especially, it takes some time to kind of get your shot going, to get yourself like going offensively in a game. And Malachi has now shown a few games in a row, or a few games in the last couple of weeks, that he doesn't even need to kind of warm up. He can just, when he's asked to create, when the team needs him, he can just kind of get going. And like, that's when you say the clutch gene, I think it's like a big part of it is that. Like for just perspective though, like it was his whole game that impressed me. Like the first half when Malachi came out of the game, and generally we like to be pretty positive on this show here. But I thought, yeah, we try our best. But I thought DeAndre Bembry as the backup point guard was really, really poor. 4 turnovers today, 1 assist. The first half when Bembry was the point guard, they completely, I think they lost those minutes by 12 when Malachi came out and Bembry was the point guard. And they weren't moving the ball well. They weren't getting good shots. Guys were being selfish. Bembry was turning the ball over. It was really, really ugly. And then in the second half, when Flynn came out, I said to myself, the only way the Raptors are winning this game is if they can like fight in these minutes. Like if they can stay okay in these minutes and not have what happened in the first half happen, I think they'll close out the fourth. They're the better team, so I think they'll close out the fourth fine, and that's what happened. And then in those minutes, it was really Freddie Gillespie, who I thought had a great stretch in the third and fourth quarter, and Yuta Watanabe. So 2 guys off the bench who you don't expect much of, you didn't see much of for most of the season, guys off the bench contributing. But I also have a Utah clip here. Those guys kind of did it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then yeah, like you talked about, this is a great cut from Utah. I love this cut. Just people talk about off ball cuts a lot as like a marker of a smart, young basketball player, and just having a knack for the timing here is really good by Utah. So yeah.
Yeah, no, Utah. I mentioned it. I don't know if I mentioned it with you, Oren, but I think I did with Zarar, where I mentioned how good he is, just in terms of recognizing space around him. He's a very good. How do I word this? He's very good at spacing, and I know that's very weird to say offensively, but really having recognition of where the other 4 guys are on the court. If one's low, if one's on the corner, one's on the elbow. It feels like with Utah, he's always in the right place at the right time. And this isn't just offensively. I mean, defensively, he's so aware and active as well. Utah is a guy for me where even when he's not scoring the ball for me, Oren, he's doing enough. Like he deserves to be on the court. He's an elite rebounder. You look at every single metric. Every metric tells you Utah is an elite rebounder, not just for his size, not just relative to the Raptors. He's an elite rebounder. He attacks the rim almost every single possession. You can just watch him sometimes. The next game I believe is Wednesday night against Brooklyn, but I really, really want some of you guys watching to just watch Utah some possessions defensively and just watch how he tracks the ball defensively. He's very aware. He's a guy for me where you just play him more and more, Oren, and you're going to get a better player every single game. A guy for me that, again, I think he's Oren, 24 years old, 25 years old, Utah. if I'm not mistaken. He's still fairly young. This could be a guy that, grows. I don't want to say, I'm not ready maybe to say that he's part of the Raptors' future core or anything like that. But this is a guy that I think has shown enough this season where you might want to just take a chance on him again next year and see what he has, because the effort that he just gives off, the energy, it's contagious. It really is.
Yeah, and I think Blake Murphy tweeted in this game about how the lineup that we saw tonight, I think the starting lineup, could be theoretically the Raptors bench mob next year. And that should give you a lot of optimism as a Raptors fan, because it's true. Like, most of these guys are kind of bench level guys who are being pushed into these roles because of injuries. But you take it down a notch and imagine them playing against, kind of backup level quality, which, to be fair, OKC for the most part is right now.
Yeah.
That's really exciting, especially after seeing this year, the start of this year, and the team having no depth. I credit Nick Nurse. I was actually watching you and Zerar's broadcast, and I think it was Zerar was talking about this. Like, I credit Nick Nurse for kind of shuffling through everybody this season, giving everybody a chance, because what we've seen as the season has gone along is just like bench players who started the year really poor, no confidence. Now, look at Flynn as an example, look at Utah as an example. Now they look really, really good, no matter who they're out there with or what. And then also, like, we talked a couple of games last time I was on this pod, we talked about how not playing bad players can be almost as good as playing really good players.
That cryptic Blake Murphy tweet.
Exactly. And this game was an example of injuries forced us to play bad players again. Yeah. And it almost lost us the game. Like, I know you were tweeting about Stanley Johnson. He had a bad game. And DeAndre Bembry, who was my target tonight with 4 turnovers. Like, he has one job. It's to run point guard. And it might not be his natural role, but some of the passes he was throwing were just like floaters to the defense. Like, those two combined for, let me double check. Yeah, 7 turnovers, those two combined for, and 2 assists. So, like I said, bad players almost costing us the game.
Yeah, bad players almost costing us the game. Let's talk about who I thought, Oren. And again, you might disagree with me, because I know, you mentioned right before we started recording, I'm starting with Malachi in this game, but, Chris Boucher deserves a lot of credit in this game. For me, the player of the game, a guy who from the start was just super hot. And he was honestly one of the storylines heading into this game, because it felt like, for me, Oren, going into this game, we didn't know if Lou Dort was going to play for OKC. And I know a lot of Toronto Raptors fans are naturally Canada basketball fans. So for them, they were very excited to see Lou Dort. Obviously very excited to see Chris Boucher. They get to watch him every game. But Lou Dort, whenever you get to see a Canadian play, some people love that. I love that, right? If it were up to me, I'd love to see Gilgeous-Alexander play in this game as well. But he was out. But again, yeah, him and Lou Dort were going shot for shot. Chris Boucher was just going bananas, man. The first half, the way he ended the half on the buzzer beater, it's just, he was going crazy, and then clutch as well. And this is the dagger, yeah. Oren, this is on me, because if you guys heard me on last what was it, 2 nights ago, when I was speaking with Zerar, I was talking about how I don't know if Chris Boucher should be in the clutch lineups anymore. But in this game, it's like you don't really have much of a choice. Kyle's out, Fred's out, OG's out, Pascal's out. You're really just playing with Malachi, Gary Trent, and a bunch of rotation guys. So for me, Oren, it was, you got to see what you have with Chris Boucher. And in this game, he was super hot. Gary Trent Jr. found him for, essentially what happened to be the dagger of the game. It would have been the wrap-up turning point of the game. But for me, Chris Boucher was just absolutely incredible in this game. They don't win this game without Chris Boucher. Offensive, this is one of those games, Oren, too, where offensively, he looked much better than he did defensively, which is sometimes kind of a shock, because Chris Boucher's first thing you think about with Chris Boucher is that he's an elite shot blocker, but pretty good rim protector. But in this game, I mean, goodness gracious, this might have been the most consistent offensive performance we saw from Chris Boucher. First quarter, second quarter, ending the second quarter on this buzzer beating shot. ending the fourth quarter on a couple clutch threes. Oh man, it's just seeing him smile and walk back to the bench and get 1,000 high fives from the team was dope to see. What did you think about Chris Boucher's performance?
Yeah, really impressive. Let's start defensively. Last time these two teams played, Moses Brown kind of ate him alive on the boards and inside.
Yeah.
And he did much better tonight. 6 offensive rebounds, 12 rebounds in total. I think part of that is the fact that he was playing the 4 all game. I don't think he played the 5 for a single minute, with Birch and Gillespie eating up a total of like 48 minutes. Yeah, total of 48 minutes. So he played the 4 all night, and like we've been talking about all season, I think it's his natural position to play the 4. And because part of that is when you're asked to play the 4, the defensive responsibilities are a lot less. So you can mess up on defense, which I think it's fair to say Boucher did a fair amount of times tonight. But you can mess up on defense at the 4, and your team is still okay. You still have someone else back there to clean up mistakes. Mm-hmm. You're not guarding the 5. You're guarding Poku. So it's just a different position, a much less high leverage position to play. So defensively, he did about his job, I guess. Like, still has room to improve, but offensively, he kind of, like you just said, he showed a little bit of everything. Like, the 3-point shooting, obviously impressive, 6 for 9, but he impressed me just like his ability to put the ball on the floor. It feels so much less dangerous now, so much more natural when he attacks closeouts. He got to the rims, he got to the free throw line 7 times tonight, which you rarely see him do, but he just had the confidence to, when guys ran him off the line, he had the confidence to put it on the floor, not turn the ball over, 0 turnovers, and just get to the rim or even get to his mid-range shot. And that fluidity is something he's going to need to keep improving at, especially if he's going to play the 4 long term, which, like I've said, I think is his natural position on defense, at least. Like, he's going to have to do more than just be able to spot up or just rim run. He's going to have to, attack closeouts a little bit like he did tonight, and even turn the corner on a dribble handoff and stuff like that. I thought he showed the whole package of his offensive toolbox tonight. It was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. You look at the box score here, Oren, I honestly didn't even know he had 0 turnovers, and that's impressive, again, for a guy that was putting it on the floor a lot more than usual. I'm not going to lie to you, Oren.
Yeah.
I don't like Chris Boucher putting the ball on the floor. I don't. But again, with the circumstances you have, what choice do you really have? I mean, you can't give it to Gary Trent Jr. and Malachi every single possession to have them create offense for the rest of the team. Guys like Utah, Stanley, Paul Watson, who, again, had a great game against Orlando but kind of fizzled out in this game. Those guys aren't really – you don't give the ball to those guys and expect them to just create offense. Even Paul Watson, when he scored, I think it was 31 or 30, a lot of it was spot-up threes, and that's okay. I'm not saying that's Paul Watson's incapable of scoring off the dribble or anything like that. But in this specific game, Chris Boucher, like you said, closeouts, stop, pop for a mid-range. Again, he's a plus 15 in this game, shot incredibly efficient, went to the free throw line 7 times. I felt like the Raptors maybe didn't get to the free throw line enough as a team, but that's kind of been like a team issue this season with some of the guys injured, especially Kyle Lowry out. I've always liked Chris Boucher's shot in slow motion, though. I can't even lie to you.
This is when he put Poku in the dirt.
Oh, this was nice. This was nice. And, I gave Poku the benefit of the doubt on Twitter, where I said, it feels like a lot of players, I don't know, on the Raptors court have just been slipping this season. I don't know if that's a court issue or whatever it is. But you know what?
This guy came quick to clean up.
Yeah, he came super quick. I'm taking that benefit of the doubt away, Oren. Taking it away. That's all Chris Boucher. Look at his feet slipping and sliding. Swiffer wet jet. Chris Boucher stops, pops. And by the way, for anyone who's ever played basketball, if you've ever had the enjoyment of, dropping someone like that, the amount of composure it takes to make the shot after, because you're so worried about the guy on the ground. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about, I'm not talking from the perspective of a guy who drops people every time he plays basketball. I'm way past those days. I was never like a very good dribbler. But let's not get into me, because this is a Raptors post-game show. This isn't a Sahal post-game show. for me though, Oren, that specific play that was the play where I was like, okay, this is going to be one of those Chris Boucher games. Like his confidence is super high. Chris Boucher is a guy that when he starts hitting a few shots, he's going to hit a few more. He's I don't want to say maybe he's a streaky player, but Chris Boucher, when he had 17 in the first half, I was like, okay, we might get 30 from Chris now. And yeah, he did finish. He finished with 31 points. He was super active on the glass, 12 rebounds, a couple assists, a steal, a block. He looked good, man. He looked damn good in this game. And like I said, it was the Montreal show. I don't know what you guys want to call it in the comments. You know, some clever phrases you guys have for whatever Lou Dort and Chris Boucher were doing. A Montreal, help me out, Oren. A Montreal. Okay, I lost it. I'm not there.
I forgot all the French I learned. But
I was trying so hard to think of a French word. Nothing was coming up for me.
Yeah. With Boucher, like this is the thing about whatever you want to call it. We'll save this for the end, I think, whether or not the Raptors are tanking or what they're doing with all these rest days and stuff. We can get to that at the end, but this is like kind of the benefit or the exciting part about tanking is like certain guys get an opportunity that they would never otherwise have to kind of show their full range. And I think like Gary Trent Jr. certainly gotten a lot of freedom that he never had in his career. Malachi Flynn has all this freedom. And Chris Boucher today was a good example of like, he had all the freedom to make mistakes and then keep shooting and to put the ball on the floor and to do a little bit of everything. And like, he's the type of player right now who I think like he's still somewhat of a liability on defense, but if he only cleans up a few small things, he can be a really, really good NBA player. Like with him, I'm not ready to give up on anything. Like even though I watch his defensive mistakes and get frustrated, I'm not ready to give up because some of them are really, really fixable, whether it's his aggressive closeouts just needing to be more controlled or his shot blocking needing to be, he stop going up for shots he's not going to block and just rebound. Like, so some of those things are so like fixable that I just look at him and I'm just like, he's a 7-footer who can shoot the three, who can the rim run, who can block shots. Like, and now what we've seen this season is he can actually put the ball on the floor and attack closeouts. So I think he has a really good future ahead of him.
Yeah, no, I think Chris Boucher has proved this year, at least, that he's been a consistently solid role player for Toronto. Again, he's had his ups and downs. We expected it early in the season. He's a guy that we didn't expect to come in and just light the world on fire, even though honestly at one point it seemed like he was firmly in the most improved player / sixth man of the year discussion.
Yeah, and then his 3-point shot fell off for a while, but now it's come back, which is definitely necessary for the Raptors.
100%, and it's kind of strange how like as soon as his 3-point, I want to say his 3-point percentage started normalizing, because honestly, Oren, let's keep it a buck. Like he was near 50% at one point for a good chunk of the season, and then it started normalizing. And as soon as that started happening, it felt like the entire Raptors team was just falling apart with injuries and a bunch of stuff. So it wasn't a great time for Chris Boucher to kind of, for him to lose his shot. But again, it looks like it's back. He had a very good game in this one. A game that a lot of Raptors fans seem like, at least in the comments, that they're proud of. And again, I know I mentioned him before, but shout out to Lou Dort. Shout out to our guy Lou Dort from the OKC Thunder. I tweeted a couple times about how I can't wait to see him with Canada basketball this summer. I think, Oren, if I'm not mistaken, the Olympics are restarting this summer.
Yeah, they're happening.
So if the Raptors do end up qualifying, I know in their qualifying tournament they've got Greece and I think China, if I'm not mistaken, in their qualifying group, and one more team I'm forgetting. But I can't wait, man. It sucks because every time I think of Lou Dort or Chris Boucher, and then I think of Team Canada, it makes me think of Jamal Murray, and Jamal Murray just got injured, right? Torn ACL, so hopefully he gets better as well. But I can't wait, man. It feels like as Canadian basketball fans, Oren, we never get to see like our fully healthy Canadians really go at it in international tournaments. At least it feels like Americans always get that privilege of watching their basketball teams in the Olympics and in these qualifying tournaments, and their A teams, their B teams, their C teams, and it just feels like Canada is just missing out. I don't know, Oren, if Andrew Wiggins has even played for Canada. Has he played on a senior level yet? I'm not even sure, to be honest.
I don't think so at the senior level. I don't think so.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate. He's in year 5? So
yeah, but this could be the year. This could be the year.
Yeah, and he's having a big year too.
Yeah, it's still an exciting team with SGA and all these guys, Kem Birch, Lou Dort.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I hope those guys can get through the season. Like especially SGA, he's hurt and he's out for the season probably. I hope he's back for that tournament. But we'll see. You're right. Pretty bad luck for this team, and this is the first time they've actually had a good team. So
what are we looking at? I don't want to change the subject too much when it comes to this game tonight. But what are we looking at? We're looking at SGA at point guard, Lou Dort at the 2. Wiggins at the 3? Is that what we're doing?
I don't know if Dort's at 2, but sure. Yeah, you could play big and go Boucher at the 4 and then like Kem Birch at the 5 or Kelly Olynyk at the 5. Or you can play
super small and do Wiggins at the 4 and fit in RJ Barrett somehow in there.
Oh, yeah. Oh, but that's the thing. That's the good thing about this year is that most Canadians are on bad teams. Like RJ, he should be out in the first round. SGA, Kelly Olynyk will be out. Kem Birch, so Kem Birch, Boucher, Wiggins, RJ, something like that.
That's a good lineup that Jesse put out. SGA, Barrett, he has Dort, I'm assuming, coming off the bench, Olynyk and all those guys, Trey Lyles and all those guys coming off the bench. But that's a damn good lineup, man. And honestly, internationally, again, we're getting pretty far from the game, but internationally, man, I'm totally okay with putting Wiggins at the 4, putting in Birch for the size at 5.
But and the other cool thing about international ball is that like there's no like balls are live on the rim, right? There's no goaltending if you tip it in while it's over the rim or if you block it while it's coming down. So Boucher has a huge advantage in those type of situations when the ball is kind of always live. He should be able to clean up a lot and block a lot more than he can in the NBA with those different rules. But yeah, like I don't know if you want to talk the game anymore. I did want to talk about like do you have anything to say on the game?
I was going to say Gary Trent Jr. Maybe we could mention him just because he finished with 23 on the game. But again, 9 for 25. He took 25 shots for him to score 23. But hey, he was a plus 16. He played really, really good defense on Dort, a guy who started off the game really, really hot. I think he was 7 for 7 to start the game, and then he ended up 9 for 15. So he was 2 for 8, right, in the second half, which was huge, I think, for Toronto. And I love
5 steals somehow.
That's crazy. And for me, Gary Trent, it's not just, with his defensive ability, it's like he has the entire package. Like his ability, his lateral ability is so good. Like he can move left to right so well defensively. He's a guy who has super active hands, 5 steals, like Oren mentioned. And he's also a guy that takes pride. Like he takes real pride in guarding the best player or the hottest player on the court. He's one of those guys where, when Dort was getting hot in the first half, you could see he was taking it personally. So shout out to Gary Trent Jr. I mean, a good game, I think, from him. Probably didn't shoot as well as he wanted to, didn't shoot as efficiently as he wanted to, 9 for 25. But, man, he did a great job on Lou Dort, sticking to him like glue at the end of that game. Did you see anything from Gary Trent that you liked?
No, but I'll give a shout out to Freddie Gillespie.
Oh yeah,
who I thought in the third and fourth quarter, like what I was talking about in that stretch where Malachi Flynn sat and the Raptors needed to stay in the game, he was really, really good. Yeah. Considering this guy is so new to the league, he really fits right in. Like he looks like he's a backup point guard in the NBA, which is kind of not what you expect on a 10-day. Like he's averaging like 20 minutes a game on a 10-day. Now his second 10-day, but still. I'm impressed by him, his rebounding, his screen setting, and just kind of his court awareness. He can come up to the level of the screen. He's very mobile. And he takes a lot of pride in these kind of things, the shot blocking, the rebounding, the little things, like Blake wrote that story about him. He's always succeeded in whatever role he's been asked to play. And you can see that on the Raptors. He's never taking pull-up jump shots. He's never taking shots that we don't want him to take. He's just doing the things that are asked of him and helping them win games.
Yeah, and I'm looking at Gillespie on the box score, and most people would look at it like, oh, well, he wasn't like all that. But I mean, 10 points in 19 minutes from a guy who's on a second 10-day contract. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Oren, this is his fourth game with Toronto, maybe third. I feel like it's his fourth game with Toronto. Regardless, I mean, new city, completely, new teammates, new environment, new system on defense and on offense, has to learn the sets and all of that. Mm-hmm. And he just plays full effort, 100% energy, gets off the court, gets rest, comes back in 100% energy again. I love Freddie Gillespie. If you actually, if you're a member, I want to say, of Raptors Twitter, you're an active member, that a lot of people have been vouching for him to get that 2-year unguaranteed deal on top of, the second 10-day contract. People were honestly vouching for it before he even got this second 10-day contract. So yeah, shout out to RIP. I hope, is that Rip D Rose or RIP? Okay, I'm gonna say Rip D Rose because I'm gonna stick with Rip D Rose.
Yeah.
He says, like the stream guy, 16 likes.
D Rose had a great game today. Did you watch that? Oh man,
he did. I follow some New York Knicks writers, and I just saw them talking about him. Even some non-New York Knicks writers were talking about D Rose back. So,
oh man, they had no business winning that game. That was horrible execution by the Pelicans. But New York, they're good. They're okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for New York. I'm happy for them, especially because they're having a season like this, and I feel like everyone's rooting for Julius Randle this year, a guy who I feel like was steadily rising in the league, but I could always tell that, from Julius Randle, he felt like he could be that star for a team. He was kind of in Anthony Davis's shadow in New Orleans. I don't know if you remember that, Warren, but he was in that shadow, I think, for a year or two. Still putting up pretty good stats. I think he still averages 17 points per game career, not this season, career. So this is a guy who's wasn't necessarily, a bum coming to the Knicks this year. It wasn't just any other player. And now look at the Knicks, man. They look like a playoff team. Game in, game out. They got D Rose playing well in that veteran role for them. They got RJ Barrett, who took a big step up for them in year 2. So shout out to them. Honestly, Oren, let's get to some live comments. I feel like we just really started highlighting some of them. I feel like you're taking a look at them. You're scrolling through right now.
I was actually just gonna show
the Derrick Rose.
No, this was the last play of the game, and yeah, our guy Zerar was just highlighting to watch the screen. This is kind of what makes the drive possible. And then the open 3 from Boucher possible. Watch this screen from Kem Birch. He didn't have the greatest game of his career, but he absolutely annihilates him on that screen, and that's what creates that dagger.
Scared, Oren. I was so scared that they were going to call that an offensive foul
because they did earlier.
That always happens. Yeah, exactly.
They called one like that.
If you've ever played basketball, you just know that, like, if you're not expecting a screen, it's not called out or whatever, and you run into it, you're getting flattened. Like, I don't know. No, I was going to say, I don't know if Dort just didn't hear Roby call it out. Maybe Roby just didn't call it out, but he got flattened. Maybe he was like, you know what, I'm just going to try flopping on this one. Hopefully I get the call. And he knew Kem Birch was coming. But I was afraid. I can't even lie with this screen.
Yeah, looked like he had no idea. And you're right. Like, I feel like refs in the NBA way too often just call fouls when someone hits the ground. Like, as soon as someone hit the ground, even if it's a legal screen, you saw it on Kem Birch earlier this game, they'll just call a foul because they'll be like, well, someone hit the ground, so there's probably some rough play there. But just wanted to highlight that real quick from Kem Birch, who didn't have the greatest game, but was still trusted to close it out at the end and made a big play.
Yeah, let's get to some of these live comments. Let's highlight D Rose's comments again. He has a comment where he says, "Hot take." I'm gonna let you, Oren, answer this one because honestly, if I do, it's gonna go from PG-13 to rated R super quick. So, and this is a family show, so we're gonna keep it at that. He says, hot take. I'm assuming he says, should we keep Stanley Johnson on the roster next year? Actually, the hot take is we should keep Stanley Johnson on the roster next year. And the hot take, honestly, that's not a hot take. That's a take that should land you in the hospital. You should, like, I'm being dead serious. If you genuinely, and again, people think that like the criticism, when I criticize guys like Aaron Baines and Stanley Johnson, it's like a personal thing. It's not at all. I just think those two players are by far, I feel like saying that they're the worst is really like, it's hurtful, but
man, a lot of Stanley comments.
They're by far, to me, the two worst players in a Raptors uniform, and I don't think either of them deserves minutes at this point in the season. Again, if you're tanking, if that's what Nick Nurse and the if you're tanking and that's what Nick Nurse wants to do, then I guess sure, play Stanley Johnson 30 minutes a game, 25 minutes a game. And by all accounts, from what I hear, he's a great guy. He's a great human being. I've seen him play personally at at the last OVO bounce. I believe it was in 2018. I did get media credentials to that tournament, so I did get to watch Stanley Johnson up in, live and direct, and he's a good player. He's a really good player in the OVO bounce tournament. But in the NBA, you have to be a little better. So for me, he's not it. And again, I was trying to avoid the subject the whole time. I had someone DM me on Twitter too saying, yo, you better talk about Stanley Johnson. You got such a big mouth on Twitter. You better mention him on the live show. So that's as far as I'm going to go, man. To answer your question, no. The hot take that's not a hot take. That's a take that, deserves probably a CT scan and a hospital checkup for you. We're getting a lot of Stanley Johnson comments.
Tons.
Can we fix Stanley? I'm going to quickly go through them. Can we fix Stanley? I think he's like 27, 26, probably not. I mean, I personally think if you get through the Raptors player development, like you go through that entire player development process, he's been here almost 2 years now. So you go through this entire thing. If you can't be fixed by the Raptors, I don't think any team can fix you. So I'm going to quickly say no. I don't know if you highlighted this yet, Oren, but D Rose also says he's pushing the Raptors development coaches to the limit. Sure. Stanley had 12. Look at John Doe. Stanley had 12. Chill.
This is a productive way to talk about it. Guru says,
what exactly do you not like about Stanley?
I'll go first if you want.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like, I agree with you. 2 years in the Raptors system at the age of like 25, 26 now, I believe. Or maybe he's a bit younger than that, but I just think it's time to move on. His contract's up at the end of this season. I don't think he's developed in a way that the Raptors would have liked him to. And I just haven't seen like enough improvement. He hasn't really found a role. I think that's like the biggest thing. He never really found a role that he could just play and be productive in that role. He's always just tried to do a little bit of everything, but never been really effective at doing anything. And I mean, first of all, it's just really hard when you're not when you're a wing who can't shoot. It's really hard to survive in the NBA. And you either have to be an incredible playmaker, really good cutter. You have to bring something else to the floor. And I don't think Stanley has that one skill that keeps him on the floor. Like, he's okay. He's not a bad playmaker by any means. He's an okay shooter. But he doesn't do anything at a very high level to where he can stay on the floor. And I just think like he's too robotic in his movements. Like when he's on a fast break or something, I just don't trust him with the ball in his hands. I just don't trust that he's going to make the right decisions.
No, I'm gonna echo every single thing you said. You can't, like you said, it's just too hard to survive in a league that's this talented if you don't have a shot, if you don't have a consistent shot. And if you don't have a consistent shot, you almost have to be Lou Dort, where you have to be all NBA level defensively, right? So I mean, it really just comes down to that. He doesn't do anything particularly well. Like you said, he was a pretty good playmaker. I disagree. I think to be a pretty good playmaker, you have to be able to play make well. Like, I don't know how else to say it. Like in transition, Stanley is not fun to watch. And again, I get it. Like, people in the comments are saying, like, we might be being a bit harsh on him. Stanley, for me, brings the vibes. He brings very good vibes to this team. He's a very likable player. He's one of the most active guys on the bench. But honestly, I prefer it stays that way, where he can just, be as active as possible on the bench rather than the court. I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah, let's leave it at that. I feel like we should get into this before we go, because this is a discussion we had in the group chat before the game. After the Raptors got fined $25,000 for resting players last game. Yeah. And then this game, they came out really late with an injury report and basically rested everyone again. And there was a really funny video going on Twitter where someone was like, I just hope Pascal Siakam gets his shoulder right. And he was like, it was from last game when he was just hyping up. Yeah, so like it does kind of feel like the Raptors are intentionally tanking with all this rest. But on the other hand, there's an argument to be made about them just being overly cautious with such a condensed schedule and wanting to not injure any of their players. So where do you lie on that?
I think Raptors fans now, okay, I can talk about where I lie. Where I lie, honestly.
I mean, they did just win 3 games in a row, so.
And that's my point. So for me, it's like Nick Nurse he's never going to say it, Oren, but the fact of the matter is there's some teams in the league that are much better than others. Like you can give the political answer and say, every NBA team's a good team, right? But there's really just some teams that are just much better than others. And you're facing an Orlando team, no Vucevic, no Fournier. Those guys are gone. You're playing a bunch of rookies and second-year players and 10-day players and two-way players in Orlando. Same thing with OKC. I feel like OKC, Oklahoma City Thunder, their average age is like 16. It's like a bunch of high schoolers playing. So it's you can get away with resting a Kyle Lowry. Theoretically, you could get away with resting a Kyle Lowry, a Fred, an OG, a Pascal. Maybe not all of them, theoretically, but the Raptors got away with it. They won. Again, you can see at the bottom of the screen, they won 112-106 tonight. They beat Orlando. They beat the brakes off of Orlando. Paul Watson dropped 30. What was the game before that, Lauren? Do you remember? Just before the Orlando game? Someone remind us in the comments. Yeah. But yeah, three wins straight. And the fact of the matter is, Nick Nurse won't admit it, but honestly, Oren, if this were a Denver, a Utah, we have Brooklyn coming up on Wednesday night, but if it was Brooklyn, 2 days ago, I don't know if all those guys get rested. And that's just the honest truth. You play in OKC, you play in Orlando, you can get away with doing that. And the Raptors got away with it.
Yeah, I think we're going to really be able to put this theory to the test on Wednesday because they have had such a compact schedule these last couple weeks. They made up for one of the games they play. I think they missed in the first half with health and safety protocols. So they've had crazy back-to-backs. They've just been so compact. So I understand why they're resting guys and just being overly cautious. But, they have Monday and Tuesday off, and then they go Wednesday. So I would be surprised if they don't have pretty close to a full roster against Brooklyn. Also because it's Brooklyn, and I think they want to beat Brooklyn for a number of reasons. Beating Brooklyn, A, it's another win for the Raptors, helping them get in that play-in. And B, it means that Philadelphia is closer to the 1 seed than Brooklyn. And I think if you ask the Raptors, they would rather play Philadelphia in the first round than Brooklyn. At least that's where I land on it. I would love a first round Philly Raptors series. Not that I think the Raptors would win, but I think they would be competitive. I think they know the blueprint to beating Philly, selling out an Embiid and making the other guys beat you. And I don't think the Raptors would win, but I think they'd make it competitive. I think it'd be a really good series. And I think, it would just be great because they already have a rivalry from obviously 2019. But yeah, so I think we'll see on Wednesday. I kind of lean towards them just being overly cautious and kind of not being too not caring too much either way if they go to the play-in route or if they go the lottery route. But you also made a good point in the group chat. Do you want to kind of bring up that about them kind of gearing up for a run here?
Yeah, I think like I said, so In the last 3 games, the Raptors could get away with resting guys, right? And then tonight, Sunday night, you get Monday off, you get all of Tuesday off, right? And then Wednesday comes Brooklyn. Brooklyn just lost Kevin Durant, right? The Raptors they're probably going to get Lowry back. They're probably going to get OG back. I'm not sure about Fred. Hip injuries you got to be very cautious with them, especially with smaller point guards. We all saw what happened with Isaiah Thomas, but again, Fred if he really, really wants to play, he probably will. Siakam might come back on Wednesday, but the whole point is that, the Raptors have kind of the last 2 or 3 weeks have developed this sort of, I don't want to call it a strategy, but I feel like they looked at their schedule and they said, you know what, we've got whatever the opposite of a murderer's row is, a cake schedule, you could call it if you like, coming up, which is what the Raptors have basically gone through the last week or so. They knew that was coming up. This would be a great time to rest all their guys. Fred was out, COVID. OG out, COVID earlier. Pascal out, COVID. So all those guys, all the core guys were used and honestly abused. You could blame the NBA. You could blame the Raptors organization. You could honestly blame whoever. But as soon as those guys came back, it felt like we were relying on Pascal a hell of a lot. We were relying on OG a hell of a lot. Fred a hell of a lot until Fred went down with injury. Even before that, before we traded, for Gary Trent Jr., we were relying on Kyle Lowry and Norman Powell so much. And now I think Toronto's reached a point where they realize and they're like, okay, you know what? If we're going to take an opportunity to really look at some of these guys' long-term health situations, we're going to start resting guys. It just is what it is. A lot of these guys have been overused. Let's get them ready for one final run. If we do it, we do it. The play-ins in reach. Chicago looks like one of the worst teams in the league right now. I don't know what's been going on with the Chicago Bulls since they got Nikola Vucevic. But yeah, the Raptors, the play-in is in reach for them. You guys could, in the comments, you could say how much you want the Raptors to tank and how much you want them to get that 8th overall pick or 7th overall pick. I don't even know at this point what we're reaching for as fans, but at this point, the play-in's there, Oren. And
the last,
I'm never going to say I want the Raptors, to just go on losing streaks for the sake of, getting a 5th, 6th, 7th overall pick, which is likely what they'd get, right?
No, we got to get the views up on this show too for playoff time. We need playoffs for the show. But no, the other thing about resting guys, the last point I'll make is that it also gives you a better chance to look at the fringe guys who you have to make a decision on very, very soon. Like, a lot of these guys have unguaranteed contracts. I'm talking Bembry, Aaron Baines, Utah, a bunch of guys. So they're going to, restricted free agency for Trent Jr. So they have to make decisions on these guys very soon. So these games like OKC and Orlando, the Raptors front office gets to look at these guys in bigger roles, Boucher, and kind of determine where they want to go with them. Do they want them to be a part of the future? Do they want to trade them in the offseason? Yada, yada, yada. So I think that's the other pro of kind of resting your star players because you know what you have in them.
Yeah, it's an audition. It really is for next season. We both mentioned this on multiple times on, I want to say the last 5, 6, 7 shows. When you see these bench players, the Watson Abes and the Stanley Johnsons playing all these minutes, a lot of it's an evaluation period for Nick Nurse and the staff to look at these guys and say, what do we have for next year? Phoenix Plays Z has a nice comment here. Do we get the draft odds of the 10 seed if we make the playoffs via play-in?
The answer is no.
Yes.
From what I understand, if you win the play-in game and you get to a full playoff series, you do not get lottery odds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the nice answer that Oren just gave you. I was about to give you the same answer, but honestly, I wouldn't say I'm 1,000% sure, but I'd say I'm probably 85% sure that's the case.
I'm like 98. I saw it somewhere, so I trust the source.
Yeah. I think we can wrap it up there, though, Oren. There's 2 days left until the next Raptors game. I don't know about you guys, but when we get 2-day breaks, I'm not really used to them because this compact season has been, back-to-back after back-to-back, and then a day's rest, and then a game, and then a day's rest, and a game, and then another back-to-back. So going to be weird to see no Raptors playing for 2 straight nights, but we will be back Wednesday night against the Brooklyn Nets. I know a lot of people in the comments mentioned that Kevin Durant is injured, so we wish him good health. Sucks to always see the best of the best in the league, or really just anybody in the league, go down with injury. And at this point, Oren, I don't know about you, but I want to see Toronto face, the best talent there is available, especially if we get our guys healthy as well. I want to see Kevin Durant playing and Kyrie and Harden and all these guys playing. So, yeah.
That's the thing about this year. It's been such a bummer because you tune into games and you're excited. Oh, look, it's Heat Nets. And then I tune in and Durant's injured. He leaves in the 4th minute. Jimmy's not playing. Harden's not playing. It's like all season. I just feel like every game I tune into, the stars aren't there. And it's really disheartening.
I know what you're laughing at. You're laughing at this. You're laughing at this, Oren. Don't lie.
I don't understand it.
Oren's just going to start streaming COD right now. I'm not going to lie. I think I'm about to hop on Warzone.
Yeah, that's what his thing is.
Yeah, that's my thing. I'm going to hop on Warzone for a bit. That should put me to bed. I am fasting during this month, so got to get up during sunrise, eat, head back to bed. That's going to be my days for the next 28 days. So wish me well on that. Yeah, we got Brooklyn on Wednesday, Oren. This was fun. It's good to have you back. Welcome back, my guy. It was good to have Zarar, though, a couple of days ago as well. Love having Zarar in here, our producer. But that's going to end it for us, guys, on the wrap-up. We appreciate all you guys in the live comments. We really, really do. And we're seeing a lot of the same, accounts, the same names coming up every single, show. And we really, really appreciate it. I really can't tell you guys enough how much me and Oren appreciate it. D-Rose, I see your comment. And
I don't understand.
All I'm going to say is if you know, man. That's all I'm going to say. If you know, you know. So, yeah, give us a like if you guys can. Jesse, we appreciate that comment. Before you guys leave, comment, subscribe, do everything. Turn on the post notifications. I say it every single show. We also want to thank our sponsor, RF Qureshi from Remax, for supporting this show. This was the wrap-up. This was your Raptors Republic post-game live show where your Toronto Raptors defeated the Oklahoma City Thunder 112-106, bringing the Raptors record to 23 wins and 34 losses on the season. That much closer to the play-in, guys. I'm your co-host, Sahal Abdi, again here with Oren Weisfeld. Thank you guys again for coming on tonight. We'll see you guys Wednesday night against the Brooklyn Nets. Chris Chiozza, I should say, and the Brooklyn Nets.